This is a partially detailed guide on how to get the "We did not play test to see if this badge was possible" badge, aka beating the game without entering a locker once. There are quite a few things you may need to know when attempting this badge. The first part is that the black side is always going to be harder than the ridge because there are more doors that you need to go through. And the ridge is the easiest part because there is a plentiful amount of safe spots on the SS. SS, standing for safe spot, is an area that you can stay in to avoid the line of sight detection radius of an angler, or a thing that blocks the line of sight radius of an angler is also the same. There's another thing known as Pandemonium Safe Spot, or PSS for short, that you see mostly in Dispatch Sucks runs or in generic runs. These include side rooms or places where Pandemonium cannot see you. This means if you are in a Pandemonium safe spot, as long as you don't allow Pandemonium to see you, you will be totally safe. There are 5 major aspects of getting Lockerless which pose a unique challenge. Number 1 being your classic room generation. It's a normal thing to have this occurring. The second being the entities. There are a total of 6 entities in the game that can spawn at random intervals. These being the classic angler, which is the normal rush-based entity. Second being Pinky, who acts like the rush entity, but does not flicker the lights. Third being Frogger, which acts on ambush and rebounds after it touches the next door. Fourth being Shame Smoker, which is a slower version of the angler, and comes at a very slow pace. And the last of the major worries is Blitz, who flickers the lights double the amount that any of the other anglers would, and goes through every room extraordinarily fast. The last one of this list is Pandemonium. You can only have Pandemonium 2 times in a run, unless there is a pressure administrator in the run. There are a few techs to each of them that may help during your Lockerless runs. The first few to note is that Angler has a frontal variant that most people call Frangler. This angler in particular will attack from the front. If you open the door when it spawns, it will instantly come charging down the hallway and killing anyone it makes contact with or is in its kill range. The second is the Pinky. The one that doesn't flicker the lights will not reset the late flicker period. So, if you have a Pinky, and it seems to be a late Pinky, right now, that is a late Pinky. So, there will be potentially another late flicker to happen. And another thing to note is that this is a side topic. You can look into walls and see small protrusions out of a wall. This is a wall dweller. As soon as you leave the wall dweller's room, if you go back in, but if you generically leave the room and you don't know, it'll spawn, it'll make footstep sounds, and if you do not look at it by the time it gets to you, it will kill you. It can be killed during the animation by turrets, but it is pretty hard to get it to trigger. The generic understanding to know if you have a wall dweller is by remembering room layouts, which not many people are that good at. But there is still hope in that. It's very giant after all. The next thing to note is that Chainsmoker is the only angler who can flicker the lights in the ridge. Not Chainsmoker, so, if you have a Chainsmoker other than an angler and you do not have a safe spot, there are 3 things to do. 1, run back. 2, keep running forward. Or 3, just straight up kill yourself or leave. The third option is not the best because it's a Chainsmoker. If you have Chainsmoker approaching you, it is very, very good if you keep running because of his very slow speed, which allows you to go very far ahead. The fourth thing to know is that if you have a 50-50 room, where both sides are the same, if you have a Frogger, then a Frogger will take both paths, which means she will take both areas. So even if you are hiding on one side, if she goes to the other side, she will come back around and kill you. That's all for Frogger. To note about Blitz, there isn't really anything to note about Blitz. If you get him and you do not have a safe spot, like right next to you, you are probably dead. In all respect, if you get a Blitz, you are probably dead. Because he takes around 10 seconds to reach you from when he spawns. This is very RNG dependent with very long rooms. So, if he does not get to you in a while, then that means the long rooms have slowed him down a little bit. Another factor is, like, if there is a specific number, if you reach a specific room, there is a higher chance for one of the few to spawn. Is about everybody's rival in Lockerless, Pandemonium. Pandemonium is the only entity that has to see you, like actually see you, in order to be able to kill you. So how Pandemonium works is he has a raycasting hitbox that extends from the center of his image. If that raycast hits a player's head, Pandemonium will kill that player and proceed to chase after them. When he touches the player, they die. How to block Pandemonium's sight is very, very simple and much easier said than done. Just don't let him see your head. This has been tested and further speculated, but if you put your head inside of an object, Pandemonium will go directly past you no matter where you are. But this has only been tested against the next door because Pandemonium has a little technique that he uses where after he reaches the next door, his image goes into a quote-unquote wandering state, where it goes in a random direction from where it entered the state. During this state, Pandemonium will not be able to see you, which leads to moments like when you're hiding in a side room, and Pandemonium enters his wandering state and chases right into your side room, giving you a little jump scare, but he doesn't actually do anything. This is very helpful to note, as that means you need to only have distance between the door and you. The final thing to note about Pandemonium is that he can only spawn once during the black site and once during the ridge. To maximum spawn limit. This might be him. Nope, it is not. Forgive me for mine. There are unique factors that increase chances of specific entities spawning. Like, per se, if you have a long room and it just flickered as soon as you open the door, you most likely have a frontal angler unless that was a blade flicker. As blade flickers are not able to spawn frontal anglers by normal means. There are quite a few techs that allow you to distinguish between each entity.
May it help you in your endeavor.
Pandemonium is the only entity that doesn't instantly spawn when the lights are flickering.
This isn't a charity.
When Pandemonium spawns, he will spawn 1 second after the lights stop flickering. This is probably to give people a chance before he instantly spawns and sees someone, like, directly down the hallway. Which is a very good counterbalance to this spawn camping, like, mechanism. One thing to highly note in Lockerless runs, pardon me, is that no entities can spawn one door after a dark room. This means if you have yourself a dark room, you are completely safe in the next room unless something spawns, like squiddles, good people, and various other door-related entities, like the Wall Dweller, which I mentioned earlier. There are also some variations that increase the chances. Yeah. The dark room spawn rate scaling does increase the higher amount of rooms you are in. So you will see a lot more dark rooms at door 50 to 100 than you would at door 0 to 50. This is probably due to a high amount of entity balancing, because by the time you reach past door 50, you will most likely not encounter any of the angler variants, or even Pandemonium. The main keeper of this game, Sebastian Solus, T-13, usually resides at around door 48 to door 52. You can see if he's in the next room in the base layout, which is the default layout of rooms, if there is red lights or something in the next room. This means the next room is completely safe unless you have entity incoming from the previous room, like Angler. This means you have time to get into Sebastian's room and get into the vent, which will make you safe. Just make sure you're not sticking out too much, because you can die in the vent. And you can even be seen by Mr. Pandemonium inside of the vent, so make sure you're fully covered. After you see Sebastian Solus for the first time in the Lockerless run, you are at the midway point of the game. The next entity you will probably encounter is either the Trench Bleeder event room, or this room that I am currently in, known as the Searchlight room. Scientific pressure name, Voltus Luminaria. These whale-like creatures have 4 light-shaped circles on their body that if they see something that's either moving or looks like food, they will not move. There is a way to counter this raycasting that the searchlight has, which is by breaking the line of sight with either the light or the mouth. To be able to kill something, you have to have line of sight with the mouth. So, if you break line of sight a few seconds after it sees you, you will be alright. It will not be able to kill you. Apologies for the silence, but my sister was intruding. Anything can break the angler's raycasting hitbox, like boxes like this one, lockers, and you could also even use a simple door, or you can use the bodies of your dead teammates because they have collision. But nobody has been able to evade an angler with their bodies of their teammates yet, just because we haven't had anglers in the dead rooms of people. This might work if you have a good people room, but those good people doors are just at the right distance where angler cannot reach anybody who is currently being attacked by the good people. Good people, known as the dupe of this game, they act like the generic dupe from Doors, but with a slight twist. You cannot tell them apart from few key features. If the door you are next to is a dupe door, you will potentially hear very low growling or breathing. The next thing that may give the dupe door away is the visible static on the displayed number screen. If you see the static, then that door is a dupe. The last thing is, if you have a dupe door and you haven't, and it's been a while since you've done anything, it may which will emanate from yellow sparks which come off of the screen. If this also happens, it will take a while before it does it again. By then you will already have determined that it is a dupe, and you will be avoiding. The last thing to note is A60, which is a collaboration entity. I'm not sure if it's a collaboration, but it's an entity from the game rooms. It emits static on the screen, which will make the screen slightly blurry. But this is only if you have death mode. If you do not have death mode enabled, all you will probably hear is the static. If you do not hear static, then it's either too late, or you have a little bit of time before he comes. There are quite a few room variations in the game. Some are better than others, and some are worse. Like, much worse. A few examples of good room variations are... the server rooms and the heavy containment rooms, which is the heavy containment rooms right there. The server rooms is a short version which has server blocks in the room. These server blocks have collision and can deteriorate angler or pandemonium site. So, if you hide behind a server and an angler and or pandemonium is passing, you will be totally safe unless you are seen from a different end. These rooms are meant to have documents in them, but documents are not relevant in the Lockerless guide forum. They are purely cosmetic and some may grant badges, but most of them are just for lore purposes of the game. Like I have said earlier, the ridge is the easiest part of a Lockerless run because of the plentiful amount of pandemonium safe spots and or safe spots.
I think you need that harmony.
One entity.
You think you can win this out?
Right now, like a spaceship. It works pretty much like an open door, but with a slight little twist. It drives your camera towards it. So if you're looking in the opposite direction, it will drag your camera to look at it. That is all. Let's see what we got. It appears that we have Chainsmoker again. This is not really relevant because every pressure Lockerless run is unique. I am slightly surprised that that door was a dupe. You never usually see dupes in floor vent rooms. Anyways, back to the yapping session. There are worse room generations, a few of these being known pretty well, such as the Flesh Caves room variant, which has absolutely no pandemonium safe spots in it whatsoever. If you get flesh rooms, you are probably dead unless it ends very early, as this is the worst room generation that you could possibly have in a Lockerless run. The next bad room generation is known as the sewers. You do not have to worry about the sewers because it was recently taken out of the room layout roster. And I will continue to stand by this fact until it is later re-added. Another bad one is known as the room layout. This one only has 2 potential pandemonium safe spots and or safe spots, this being the Sebastian shop room or that one bridge room. The Sebastian shop room also applies for flesh caves, but it is much rarer than the room's layout. So you will most likely see Sebastian shop in the room layout rather than flesh cave. One more thing to note while it's here, squiddles. They are aggravated by light, and if you have a light on near them for too long, or you're standing near them for too long, but hey, it's not like you're going to be actively getting these guys aggro in a Lockerless run anyways, because there's much more to stake than taking a little bit of damage to a funny squid. We are nearly at the ridge, so when we get there I shall discuss with you all here watching this on why the ridge is much easier than the black site. Alright. I have made it to the ridge, which is the final segment of every game of Trekker. The ridge consists of 14 doors from start to finish of this segment before you reach the end and claim your Lockerless badge, and or any of the other badges that you get for beating the game. If you beat the game, you are rewarded by being able to purchase the hand-cranked flashlight, which is an infinite flashlight from the pre-run shop costing 125 kroner. I shouldn't be talking about this, but I really like it. Anyways, we are pretty much at the bridge. This arc will go into 3 segments. 1, entities, 2, rooms, and 3, general necessities and fundamentals. There is something on the entities tab. If you haven't had a... If you've had... You will probably not have another Frogger in the ridge unless you get that unlucky one, which is a form of negative luck. This means that, say, if you had something like chain, you will probably not get a chain. It has been said in a recent patch that the A60 monster, the very rare monster, has been added to the list, but as of right now, none have been found. In the first room of the ridge, after you grab the crystal, there is always a guaranteed Pandemonium safe spot in this checkpoint that I am using right now. You can wait for Pandemonium in that Pandemonium safe spot, but just for the sake of not having this video, this guide extended to more than 40 minutes, I will not be waiting for him, because it is a chance that he even shows up in the first place. What I like to do in my Lockerless runs, that you shouldn't really follow yourself, but if you want to, go ahead, is after every encounter until the second door, I open the next door, which will trigger a spawn, or it will be a no spawn room, not allowing anything to spawn, or it'll be a side room. Now we're moving on to the rooms segment. In Ridge, you are pretty much guaranteed to get 1 keycard room. 3 at the maximum, and 1 at the minimum. Or literally 0 if you're not lucky. Each Pandemonium safe spot room has a very high chance to contain a side room. Each Ridge keycard room to contain a side room. Which means you probably have a side room or something that you can use to keep safe from Mr. Pandemonium. An example of a Pandemonium safe spot in Ridge is right here as follows, by getting either at the wall, in the corner, or just somewhere that blocks line of sight between you and the path. There are 14 total doors in the Ridge, so by standard, you will usually have 1 Pandemonium safe spot every 5 doors in the Ridge. This number is heavily fluctuant based on RNG. You will not always get side rooms and Pandemonium safe spots. I am currently at room 103 of the Ridge because the checkpoint room counts as a single door. So this room right here that I am opening is 104. I am 10 doors away from the end of the Ridge. I am going to wait until this angler passes, and then I'm going to rush until I get another place. frontal anglers can also spawn during the ridge, so make sure to keep an ear out. Thanks for aggravating that squirrel. I am going to continue going because there is no PSS yet. This might be a pandemonium-less run, but who's complaining? Some might say I cheesed it by not getting pandy, but this is all RNG and a bunch of baloney. They have the right to say that it still was difficult, because getting a good ridge is pretty hard in a Lockerless run. If my remembrance count is correct, I should be near the end of the ridge. Specifically in 4 to 3 doors. I might not have anything spawn because I am this close to the end. But this is another factor if you wish to get a successful Lockerless run. It's knowing when to wait and when to go. If I don't get any spawn within 20 seconds from now, I am going to continue. It appears I have not gotten a spawn. I am going to continue. This could be the dead period that happens occasionally during the raid. It prohibits anglers from spawning until the timer is ended. This timer also includes pandemonium too. It appears I have gotten blitz. Good thing I decided to go back. This is the last encounter before I make it to the end. I am at the end. And that is a brief, partially detailed guide on how to make yourself a playtest to make sure this was possible then. It may not have popped up for me, but that's because I already have the badge, as you can see right here. Certified Clown Badge is the visual name for the we didn't playtest to see if this was possible badge, aka a Lockerless. Hopefully this guide has helped you and will help you to get your Lockerless badge for yourself. That is all. Take care, everyone.